I just don't know at this point what Fantasy's going to be able to do to allow himself to fight back into this game. He does manage to clean up those lings before that command center is lost. However, at this point, a very, very strong number of forces everywhere on the map for Jaedong, whereas a relatively depleted force from Fantasy trying to retreat back to his base, still with plenty of barracks all lit, to try and reinforce, but now it looks like this is the time that Jaedong opted to go ahead and throw down his final push into Fantasy's base. He does have a light contain going on, but it looks like, actually, judging on by the minimap, that Jaedong is content to move his forces about the middle of the map and not press into the main. Really, I agree with that strategy. If Jaedong can continue to do what he's doing and really just suffocate Fantasy by eliminating the opportunity that Fantasy has to construct any additional command centers or secure any type of economic advantage, that Jaedong is going to win this game. And here we go with another drop on this expansion by Jaedong, and that command center is not going to make it. There's no way. With no defenses, those Hydralisks are going to pound away at it until it is gone. But Fantasy opting for a drop on the ridge there, actually, outside of the Jaedong's base. But Jaedong with it looks like lurkers as well. Oh wow, and he's going to drop lurkers up on the ridge as well. And that, combined with the lurkers below on the ridge below, are going to just clean up Fantasy's forces. Fantasy losing all of his tanks and marines that were devoted to that harassment. Not successful at all. Mined out. SCVs standing by idle, and really this is the last stand, I believe, for Fantasy. This last force that we see moving out of his base right now. Defiler consuming some lings, preparing for the Dark Swarm that he's going to be throwing down, and now Fantasy's force moving out on the map. Going to try once again for this top right. Going to siege up and cause a little bit of damage. I mean, we might see Jaedong lose these lurkers. Yes, he does lose an additional lurker, but yes, plenty of units to reinforce. And really, at this point, just Jaedong is going to just close in from all sides here. Jaedong going to burrow all of his lurkers with Swarm. Going to be managed to take out a fair number of Marines. Now just gradually pressing in with additional Swarm. Lurkers everywhere. Defilers out. Hydralisks everywhere. Splash damage being nullified by the Dark Swarm. And really, I just don't know that Fantasy's going to be able to hold this off. Additional units just streaming out of the Jaedong's base. So just more and more units are just going to gradually overcome. Oh, and the lurkers come in to feint to allow those lings to get in, drawing the fire of the siege tanks. And now those cracklings are going to be able to take out those tanks. Additional lurkers now just pressing in on these tanks and marines. And this should be it. Lurkers just eliminating the tanks and medics exploding all over the place. Marines dying left and right. And really, Fantasy just losing too many units against a Zerg player that can just replenish his army at will. A super rich Jaedong is just not a Jaedong that you want to have any dealings with. Now at a distinct supply advantage, and it looks like Fantasy going to lose these two tanks as well. Now it does have some Marines out on the field, but very few medics in that count. A ton of Marines, not very many medics. He's not producing that many units, period, really, as Fantasy is just behind in supply and behind in every way in this game. And as Jaedong just continues to produce more and more units, really the effectiveness of Fantasy's units, it's just going to continue to go down. Upgraded Carapace at 2 versus these Marines that have also upgraded, but just not enough of them. And Jaedong is now just, again, in a hurting position. He's hurting these forces. Oh, a great plague by Jaedong, going to be able to just completely eliminate this medic and Marine force. There's no way that those guys are going to be making it home. And now Jaedong removing his Hydralisk from that battle, knowing that that's pretty much won. I'm going to try and take out this expansion here, and more than likely with a great bit of success, Science Vessels falling to Scourge, and wow, Jaedong just firing on all cylinders. It looks like some reinforcements coming up for Fantasy, but he is really just not in a position where he's going to be able to hold everything. He really needs to press out even more than he is currently. It looks like those minerals are rapidly running dry, and again, just going to face additional harassment from lurkers is Fantasy. That's going to hinder the mining at these expansions. Yet more more lurkers out on the map, just everywhere Fantasy turns, there are just additional lurkers harassing and killing units. Additional swarm coming in and just murdering these tanks and marines. And those tanks underneath this swarm are definitely going to fall. And at this point, I do not believe that Fantasy has the forces necessary to defend that expansion. And really is just in a position where he's going to get starved out. He is just not going to have the resources to combat this economic juggernaut that Jaedong has created. And really, Jaedong taking his time does not want to make a mistake or just heedlessly throw away units. But at this point, I really do not believe that Fantasy has any chance in this game. This is all Jaedong's game to lose with some humongous blunder, but I just don't see that happening. Jaedong is just going to press this home, and I believe that Jaedong is going to go ahead and take this win on Outsider and even up the series 1-1, which has got to feel good for him. Now, a ton of lurkers under swarm again, eliminating plenty of medic and marine forces, and a stream of hydralisks just flooding out of Jaedong's base. And really, folks, I'd expect GG at any second now. This game is really over. Look at all those units just flooding out for Jaedong. And GG from Fantasy. That is it. Fantasy now going to have to collect himself and probably going to rapidly exit the booth and head to the tribunal and try and get some advice from Boxer and Uv. Jaedong, in the meantime, cold, calm, collected, in good form, and we are really, again, I have to emphasize it, seeing a Jaedong that looks like he is truly prepared for what he is seeing out of Fantasy. And now Fantasy talking to Uv, trying to get some recommendations on what to do. And there's Lomo in Jaedong's corner, really just there for support, and it's good to see that. I'm happy to see Jaedong getting the support of his teammates. But really, here we go. I thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm going to see you guys in the third set, as this has been evened up 1-1. Jaedong versus Fantasy in the OSL semifinals.